Welcome back. Welcome back to
Welcome back, everybody.
another episode of Breakfast Blend. Um, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It's been a fun week, Brandon.
Dude, you need to tell me about this week. Like, I want to know. I have so many questions, and I think a lot of the folks at home do too. Thank you guys for the comments and the subscribes, the likes, just the views alone on the most recent videos. Like, it's really been awesome. But we all want to know, Nelson, how was week one?
It was interesting. Let me tell you. So I spent the first day, 2 days, kind of going through this headspace of, did I do the right thing? What the fuck did I do? How am I supposed to support my family? How am I supposed to find another job? All those things played a huge factor the first 2 days. After that, like, it's been weird overall because I don't have to check in. Like, and I'm not saying that like I needed to, like, tell my supervisor before, like, hey, I'm here. No, that's not the case. But what I'm saying is that, like, we have different tools, right, that allow people to see when you're online. It like allows people to see whether or not you're in a meeting, all that good stuff, right? So not having that, not having an agenda that I have to follow, that all felt really weird. And like, there's a piece of me that still feels like I have some responsibility to work, right? Like so
He's just gonna start doing it again.
No, seriously. Like, so I
he's just gonna hop on the computer,
just start emailing people, random people. No, so like my alarm went off at 7, right? Because that's what my alarm was set to, and that was like my dude, you got to get your ass up alarm, right? Normally I'm kind of waking up before then, but my 7 a.m. is usually the get your ass up.
Shit.
Yeah. So when the 7 a.m. alarm kicked on, like, part of me was just like, fuck, I got to get ready for work. I have to, do A, B, and C. I have to, do all the things, right? All the things that I normally did in order to get ready for work. And that all felt really strange when I got up, made myself a cup of coffee, and then sat on my couch and did nothing.
I was like, fuck the man.
Fuck the man.
No, I mean that in all, that's just supposed to be pure comedy.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, dude, so I want to back you up just a hair, because a lot of this that we've been talking about in here, and you've already in a couple of the previous episodes shared a little bit about this journey and kind of how you're dealing with it. Tell me a little bit about how you dealt with those first 2 days. I mean, you just described to us, I believe in the last episode, about how your brain's going a million miles a minute, and that's why it's hard to maintain a conversation sometimes. How did you maintain that inner conversation for those 2 days? What helped you through it?
Honestly, the first day, and I'm talking about like the first day, meaning the day after I quit. That's the first day to me, right? Like, so
this would have been the first day of summer. It's the
right
the day after the last day of school.
Exactly. So that Tuesday, I was okay for most of the day. Like, it was a positive thing. And then in the afternoon, there was something that triggered me. I'm not gonna kind of go into the details of what happened there because I'm not proud of it. It's actually not a proud moment. But Nicole witnessed it, right? And she saw that I had a full breakdown at that moment, right? Because like, I had not really allowed my emotions to really sink in. And that moment was where, like, it just completely hit me, right? Where I was like, like, it was a, what does the world want from me type of moment, right? Like, and it, like, dude, like, I became like this little child, man. Like, I was just like, what does the world want from me? what am I supposed to be doing? I don't have the answers to some of this stuff. Like, and I went through like all those things. Mind you, those had nothing to do with the event that actually took place, but my emotions just took over me and I didn't know how to handle it. And I broke down. I mean, I cried. Um, I felt lost. I felt incomplete. I felt, um, like I felt like tomorrow was too much of a mystery for me to feel comfortable with, right? Um, but then, like after I had that whole thing, I ended up opening up and talking about why it was that I was feeling the way that I was, right? I opened
Right.
up and talked about why it is that I acted the specific way that I did. And I ended up opening up to really what the core issue was. And that helped me a fuck ton, dude. Like, honestly, getting that shit off my chest was probably the best thing ever. I can tell you that ever since I did that, I've been in a better place. My head is a lot clearer. I am now in a place where like I'm accepting of the fact that I don't have a job and this is something that I chose. I am still 100% stand by my decision. I have no.
And that's strong right there. A week in, and you had your moment. I think, for us, for those of us who know you, and then even for those that don't, for you to talk about it right then, that's kind of a big deal too. Because I mean, that's something you would have held on to that shit for at least a couple weeks
Oh, yeah,
in the
yeah.
past.
At the very least, I would have said years, but yeah, at least a few weeks. But no, like that's absolutely true, man. And like the thing was that, like I said, opening up that way really allowed me to just get it all out. Right? It was a place where
Well, and
like
dude, I mean, we've talked a lot about just saying shit out loud and how it makes a difference.
it does, man. It really does. It
Whether it's
absolutely
good,
does.
bad, how you feel, like just saying it out loud, man. I definitely try to manifest stuff in my life by doing that all the time. Like, I have $1 million in my bank account. If I just keep saying it over and over again, one day it might happen.
Right? No, I'm with you, man.
But
It's
no,
a
in all seriousness, like,
no.
good for you, man. Like, I'm really proud and happy for you that you had your moment, because I think a lot of people might look at that in a negative light a little bit, but at the same time, whatever it took for you to be able to kind of feel everything that was going on with the entire situation and then get it off your chest shortly thereafter, like, that's at least that you had that. If you didn't feel anything, then that might have been a bigger problem.
No, absolutely. And thank you for saying that. That's for me, like one of the things that came about when I, kind of explained why it is that I had that reaction to that situation. One of the things was that I admitted to myself that I needed to have this openness about it in order for me to close that chapter. I didn't do that with previous roles. I didn't do that with previous employers. And like I ended up just kind of swallowing it and then moving on, right? And
Right.
like not taking the time to really reflect on that, which I talk about that in the previous video. Like if you don't take time to reflect, you're never going to learn from what those things are. And all you're doing is basically, just covering that problem up with dirt, right? And then eventually like it'll resurface itself later on down the line if you don't address it. So that was one of the things that I absolutely had to do. But like I said, I mean, it was a terrifying moment for me when that happened because again, I've never had that much emotion, right? Like
Right.
and let me rephrase that. I've had that much emotion. I just have not had that in several years. I mean, I can't. I
It's
it's
a big
been
moment, man.
it
Like, that's
is.
not that I don't want to let you discount it at all. Let me
I
put it to you
appreciate
that
that.
way. Like,
No, I appreciate
it's a
that.
big moment to really do that. You know what I'm saying? In a
No,
good way.
absolutely, absolutely, and I truly appreciate that. So yeah, so going through that day was definitely it was bipolar in a way, right? Because I went from happiness to sadness and anger and rage and just all the negative things that you can think about. And then once I got through that, it became like I'm okay now. I'm definitely okay. And I've been feeling really good ever since I did open up about that. You know, so in terms of what my day to days are now, like yesterday, I got up and I made myself this bomb ass breakfast. Why? Because I could, because I didn't have any meeting that I needed to run to. I didn't have any, you know, any obligation that required me to be in front of my laptop, right? Like I basically took the time, I made myself, you know, these potatoes, these eggs, and you know, I was doing something that I also like doing. Like I enjoy cooking as well, right? So it was one of those things that like me being able to get back to those things that I truly enjoy added to my feeling of I did the right thing because I'm still happy about it, right? And that was one of those elements that kind of added onto that. You know, the other thing is that like I played video games with my kids, you know, and that was awesome, right?
And
Like,
dude, like I'm glad you started bringing up the next couple days after, because like I'm sure everybody at home wants to know, like, tell me you just sat on the couch and ate Cheetos one day. Like, just
I,
for me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
just for you, buddy. No, no,
just for me.
seriously. No, no, you bring up a good point. And there has been time periods where I've done nothing. I mean, like really, I've done nothing. Like I poured myself a cup of coffee and I didn't look at my phone. I didn't look at my computer. I didn't do any of that stuff. And it was the best moment of doing nothing that I've ever had in you know my grown up life, right? Um, you know, and even like through the aspect of doing nothing, now that I don't have that rush of trying to get into to my job, it allowed me to look at some of the other things that I could be doing, right? That I've neglected for so long. Like I have this like laundry list of things that like I've kind of made myself. One of them was like, you know, in terms of like, you know, things that I needed to do around the house, right? I kind of listed them all out. These are things
Right.
that have been neglected for a long time, and they're small things, but they're things that I just didn't have the desire to do, right?
Yeah.
One of the other things that I also did was like I outlined all of the things that I needed to adjust in my life in order to supplement for the decision that I made. Here's the part that's a little bit scary for people, right? So if you're going through this journey and you're about to, you know, leap into this area of, you know, what we call Nelson's
Unknown.
insanity or Nelson's insanity, right?
The
If you're
abyss.
right, if you're willing or if you're going to be jumping into that area, right? Like one, understand that things are going to feel really weird, right? Like they completely feel weird. Me not like again, me not having the responsibility of actually checking in was completely shocking. I didn't
Well,
understand that.
bro, I just gotta throw in one comment. Like,
Yeah.
I've known you for 11 years, and there have probably in all the time that me and you have spent together in 11 years, I would say that at at very least 50% of the time that me and you have spent together, you have had a laptop in front of you.
Right. Yeah, 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 absolutely.
And like, so that's very different, and I think the whole disconnection thing, man, I think it's way more important than a lot of people give credit to. Like, I feel like a lot of times I find myself doing it where I'm connected to pass time
Mhm, mhm.
or to distract myself from some other issue that or some other something that I don't want to deal with right now.
No, and here, like, I'll give you an example of what it really feels like. You know, like, have you ever done these like spa treatments where like you end up getting like a massage, they do hot stones, or they do like a sauna, and then the next thing is that you have to jump into an ice cold bath, right? And then you get that shock that hits your body where you're just like, fuck, it's cold in here, right? And like your entire body just goes like, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with it. I want out. I want to get out of here, right? And then the moment that you have afterwards where you're just sitting, like letting your body get back to its temperature, right? And that feeling that you get where your body is like acclimating and that relaxation feeling, that is what I went through. right? So I went through that
Bro,
feeling.
real quick, I've never been to a spa, and
Oh,
I mean, apparently, I gotta adjust my goals in life. All
you
right,
do, bro. You do. You
because
have to go to a spa.
I've never been to a spa. I mean, I thought I lived in the bougiest place in America, but
All right. Step one of your life is to go to a
somebody's
spa.
got me beat.
You got to go to a spa. You
I
have
mean,
to.
I have to.
You have to. It's
I
good stuff.
think that maybe we might make that happen in a special edition in June.
Oh, nice. Yes, let's do that. Let's do
All
that.
right. All right.
I'm all for it. but
Let's do it.
but yeah, I mean, like, like when going through those emotions, it really felt that way. It felt like I just got the cold bath, right? I'm all lost. I don't know what the fuck just happened. And then slowly, like, my body started acclimating, and then like it became oh, this feels nice. Oh, okay, this feels good. Oh shit, I'm relaxed. I feel great. I'm chilling, right? Like I went through all
Literally.
those. Yeah, literally, I went through all those emotions. But then, like, one of the things that was scary, that is realistic, right? Again, if you're going through this phase, or if you're going to go through this step in your life where you're going to make this change, one of the things that was really scary is that, like, I actually outlined all the things that I needed to do financially in order to ensure that I wasn't rushing into getting back into the workforce, right?
Right.
Because I really want to take time to enjoy this moment. I really want to take time to document it. I want to, learn from it. I want to do all those things, right? So when I started outlining all the things that I needed to do from a financial standpoint, that shit was scary.
I
It
can
was
only
scary
imagine.
because I mean, like you end up like writing all these things that, like, you have to limit yourself to, right? For example, like I had to cancel my gym membership. Not that I was going,
Right.
as you can see, but I had to cancel my gym membership,
We
right?
all know that we all pay for them and we don't all go.
Right, right.
Like,
So
I need to open a gym. That's free money.
exactly, you should. But yeah, so I had to cancel my gym membership. I had to cancel some other memberships to, other things that, like, you know, like a shooting range that we used to go to, like that we also had to, kind of cancel. Um, I had to cancel um my appointments to finish my tattoo, right?
Right.
Like I had to cancel all those things. And yes, those things suck. Like, again, you're put in that place where you're just like, man, like, is it really worth it? And I'm gonna look at the camera for this. It is fucking worth it.
The
It is worth
juice
it.
was worth the squeeze, ladies and
It
gentlemen.
was absolutely worth it. Like all these things that I'm limiting myself into are a small price to pay for the way that I'm feeling right now. Like it's amazing.
And dude, that is truthfully awesome.
Yeah,
Like, I am immensely happy for you.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. And like the good thing is that, like, I've talked to a few people that are kind of going through the same journey that I am, or at least like a variation of it. And the feeling for them is also very similar. The little things are worth it, right? Like all the little things that I outline on this, like, just seem so minor in comparison to the things that I'm actually accomplishing with the feeling that I have with the decision that I made, right? So, um, oh, I know where I was. So like I've reached out to all these folks that are kind of going through the same journey that I am, or a variation of it, and their feelings are also the same. So for me, like, hearing their side also validates me. Now, one of like this is where I was telling you that I appreciate the people that I surround myself with. This is where, like, I value those folks, because some of those people have reached out to me and they're just like, dude, are you okay? Like, you're
Doing the
crazy.
temperature check.
Yeah, like, you're crazy, right? Like, and I might be crazy. Who cares? Like, I'm happy. Like, that's the thing, that, like, I am happy. Um,
Well, and
and
dude, I think it's one of those things where I know for a fact, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to understand kind of all that stuff that was thrown at us when we were young, where it's like, your happiness is worth so much more than that.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think we're starting to understand, and I know you have to be at this point, but starting to understand the value of our own happiness, and that
Yes.
and that it's okay to make a decision that has your best interest in mind.
Right. And a decision that many won't understand.
Right.
Right? It's a decision that it's valuable to you, and as long as it's valuable to you, then that's really all that matters. And I've kind of learned that through, these first few days of going through. So, um, again, going through the life cycle of the days for this week, like one of the other factors that was a big piece for me was, um, one, like being able to, like you said, do nothing. That was also a bit of a challenge, right? Because again, I've been used to always having a game plan for the next day, right? Like, so my routine was that every night I would check to see what was on my calendar, and then I would take action on it so that I could like do whatever it is that I needed to do the next day. And the cycle continued. Well, like one last night, because I basically set up my work email was kind of like my source of what I needed to do both professionally and personal,
Yeah.
right? So that calendar went away, right? Because obviously,
Oh.
yeah, because like obviously my
Oh
account wasn't
boy.
active anymore. So
Right.
that whole aspect of my organization went away. So I had to rebuild all those things. And as I'm going through that, like I'm like, oh shit, I would have missed this if I had not, if I still worked, right?
If
I
I
would have
didn't
missed that.
realize that.
Yeah. So that was also one of those things that was a bit unusual, or it felt a bit odd to do, right? Because again, like my entire life has been documented into these calendars that I've had. And again, the calendar has always been my primary has always been my work calendar, right?
Right.
And then I kind of fill in the gaps with all the other things. That was something that I needed to change. And that felt weird overall. Um, and then we bring on to kind of like the closing, the true closing part of me quitting, right? Which
Right.
happened today. So
Tell us more
I
about that.
yeah, so I went into the office today to collect my things and also to return my hardware. Um, I saw some people there. They greeted me, they welcomed me. They said their piece. It was actually really good to see the folks that I did see. Because again, right, like my whole purpose in this whole thing is that I just want people to know that anxiety and your issues with mental health do not make you a bad human being. Like, I know that me personally, I have this issue where sometimes my own brain battles me and it makes me think that I am a bad human being, but I'm not. And seeing today with the people coming up to me and saying all these nice things, like it really made me feel good about me. And it
Awesome, man.
also allowed me to really have that closure with the company that I was at, right? Because I felt that at that moment, like it was a complete acceptance of the people that I surrounded myself with, right? For them to say, "Hey, man, you may be crazy, but we get it," right?
Right.
That was a
Well,
really good feeling.
and I think that's pretty important too, because if I know, if I think back about it, I've unfortunately been led to the same decision, or fortunately been led to the same decision that you made. Um, previously in life, where you're like, oh, I'm at a point where I need to quit this job, or whatever it is, for maybe different reasons, or looking for a different outlook, whatever the scenario is. But like, you never, like, I know I've never, I was thinking about it when we were talking about this, when you were just talking about this now. I've never gotten the satisfaction of like the why.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
like and I don't mean like I quit because my pay sucks.
Right,
Like,
right.
I mean, have a full conversation, of like a validating conversation of like, and not just a conversation, and not just even an explanation, but a reason with proof, with merit, with everything else, and say your piece, drop mic, see you later. Um, now, hopefully you fix it. probably you won't. Who knows? Like,
Right, right,
but
right.
then like getting it off your chest, kind of saying it out loud to the employer themselves in a situation like that's got to be pretty good.
No, absolutely. And that kind of brings it on to the next point, right? So I did have an exit interview, and which I appreciate, my previous employer doing. I think that is one thing that's very important that people take advantage of. I had not in previous years. And it's because obviously you're conditioned to play the politics, right?
Right,
You're conditioned to not say, not really say what you truly feel, right?
right,
Because like you can't, like sometimes when we are in the workforce, it's really difficult for us to convey what it is that we really want to say, because at the same time you also don't want to be blackballed, right? You don't want to be in that situation where you say something and all of a sudden, like, it could be something very small where you say, hey, I just, I feel that we could have done it like this because this tool was better or because this person was better. And then as soon as you say that, then they go, okay, well, you could have done it, but you're just being a lazy ass. No, I'm not being lazy. That's not the thing. Like I'm trying to tell you that there's something bigger here, right? And that is something that was very refreshing when I had my exit interview, because when I went into the exit interview, like I almost fell into that conditioned format, right?
right.
Where like I was like, I don't even know where to start. What do I say? What am I supposed to say? Like, what about if I don't sound right? And then like halfway through, I'm like, who gives a fuck? I don't work here anymore,
Right.
right? Like, so
And
so
out comes the feelings.
yeah, so like, and I was respectful in what I had to share, because again, like I am appreciative of what my employer did. I am appreciative of the things that I learned. I am I'm even appreciative of where I am now. It just sucks that it ended the way that it did. But at the same time, like I also felt that in order for me to continue to be a good human being, which is what I just said that people validated me on, in order
Right.
for me to be a good human being, I needed to speak up for the people that are still there. I needed to speak up for future employees of, of that employer, right? Like,
Well, and
so,
it's kind of, so I look at it too as an awesome quality in you, where we had talked about this previously. One of the things that both of us professionally like to do is legitimately make a difference.
mhm,
Like, I don't mean like just be, you know, the ideal version of the position that we hold. I mean, seriously, make a difference in other employees' lives, the business. I mean, I could sit here and go on for hours, but that's not even hugely important. The huge part to me is like, dude, part of this is because you care about what happens to people who are after you. And it's not
absolutely.
because you stand to gain anything from it either,
No,
because
no,
your intention is to not do it over again. So,
right.
like, my point there is like, it's cool that you care so much about other people and about the overall situation in the end. It says a lot about you as a person.
I appreciate that, man. And you're the same way. Like, this is where I tend to surround myself with people that, see the value in that, because that is a big piece, right? Like, again, the thing that I'm really passionate about is I want people to see that they're not on their own. These are not, like, what I'm going through isn't unique to me. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people out there that are going like, fuck, if I could only speak my mind, right? And maybe they're
Right.
not they're not able to. There's other people that are just like, you know what? Like, this guy fucking sucks at work, but he keeps getting recognized for it. That shit sucks, right? Like, you can't really speak your mind about that, because then it just looks like you're jealous, right? Or you can't speak up about that because then it just seems like you're creating problems, right? When in reality, you're basically expressing the fact that there is an issue and that you want it addressed. That's the type of thing that, like, sometimes we get stuck in the politics and we can't really speak that because we
Well,
feel like we're going to be isolated, or not included in certain things because we were quote unquote negative during that one time that we expressed what we really wanted to say.
and I'm kind of glad that you brought up at least the statement of uh the politics of it all,
Hmm.
because I kind of laugh myself. I was for a period of time in a corporate setting, and dude, that it's almost funny to sit on the outside and laugh at internal corporate politics
Yeah.
because they're designed so people don't complain.
Right. Yeah.
They're
Absolutely.
literally designed to prevent people from complaining on all sides. And it's almost like this giant, like it's this anomaly that doesn't really exist. And there's no real spoken or written definition of how it's supposed to work. But like, and it's funny because I didn't work for the same company that you work for, but I guarantee it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And
No, absolutely.
it feels dirty.
It does, man. It does. And like, and again, man, like, it's not that the employer is trying to do that, right? Like, I
It
don't
may
think that
not
they,
even have anything to do with the employer. It
right.
may just be the a society as a whole, how corporate America is viewed, that's how we got to be.
That that right there, what you just said, is exactly why it is that I made the decision that I made, right? Is the fact that our standards for the work environment are, we're forced to fall into that, right?
Right.
We're forced to abide by these things, right? And yes, there are regulations that we have to follow, because you also can't just fucking have, like, people fucking each other up, right? Like, you can't just have that. So there are rules that need to happen, but at the same time, like, take the time and listen to what those people are. I mean, like, honestly, like, I think that we as a society have also lost touch with what managing really is at times, right? Because, like, managing is
What?
not just, it's not just go do this shit.
Well,
No,
and I want to kind of
managing.
cut in on that for
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
second
Go for it.
because
Go for it.
I truthfully believe that there's a messed up view, and I think that people only associate earning higher positions for the dollar amount that comes in their paycheck.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'll be honest with you, I think that there are times when people are promoted for those same reasons
Hmm.
because they deserve more money
Right.
for, what they bring to the business, but there's no other way to do that than to give them more responsibility,
Exactly. Exactly. So, and
which
I'm
they're
glad.
terrible at.
Right. And I'm glad.
Sometimes.
And
I
I'm
don't mean
glad.
that that's not directed at any one individual person. It's just that I've experienced that several times throughout my life where it's
No.
like this guy just got the promotion because A, he played the politics, and B, because he's been here forever and he's capped out at his salary and his position right now. And the only way for him to get any more money, for them to keep him around, is for them to give him the promotion instead of the guy that actually knows what they're doing.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And
And
the
I
thing,
don't mean to sound disgruntled there, but
no, 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 no. You brought up a good thing, right? The other thing is that, like, with that same line of thinking, right? Giving the promotions to some people that may not deserve it, right? The problem is that you're right. We end up wanting to give more to people, but it's still to the detriment of their own well-being, right? So you
right.
brought up the fact that, for
Oh,
example,
you're
you have Nelson, right? Nelson is a great employee, right? He gets his shit done. He completes all his tasks. He's on top of everything. He's killing it, right? The problem ends up happening that you end up taking Nelson and you go, well, Nelson is a great worker. Nelson gets all his stuff done. You know what? Let's make him manager, right? Well, then when Nelson becomes a manager, he goes, I'm just good at doing my stuff. I'm not good at
right.
making
How
him
am I
do his
supposed
stuff.
to tell other people to do their stuff? Nobody has to tell me.
Right, right. So I think that, like, with the whole sense of management, we've kind of lost what that is, because managing is not just going to, like, give somebody an assignment and then run with it, right? Managing is finding the right people, coaching the people, teaching them, explaining why it is that you do the things that you do, right? Elevating them by allowing them to actually implement the things that they feel are important in their own version of it, with you guiding them through the process, right? And then you learning what their true skill sets are. So then next time when you have a similar scenario, you know if to call Nelson A, Nelson B, or Nelson C to the mix, right?
Right.
That is what management should be. Instead, what we end up doing is that we create these environments for people where they end up going, well, I'm just supposed to like ensure that these projects get done, right? I'm just supposed to be ensuring that like people just turn in their shit, right? Well,
You
no,
know, the
that's
guy that goes over and just does it all himself and then gets buried and then
right.
everybody suffers.
Exactly,
I've been
exactly.
that guy before, by the way. Just saying.
I think we all have at some point. Um, but like, I think that we we lose what that means sometimes. And again, I think it's because of the structures that have been put in that aspect of work, right?
Right.
Like in order for you to move up, you have to have a different title. And no, I don't.
Well,
I don't
hold
need
on.
to have a different title.
Do you also think that some of it is um kind of on a high school level-ish sometimes
Oh,
where like
100%, man.
well like I've had bosses that I feel like the only reason why they were shitty to me about things was because people like because the guy who was in their position before was just shitty to them about things.
Absolutely. Well,
Like
and
that
going
it's almost dictated not by the company. Like I want to be clear. Like I don't think a lot of this stuff is ever dictated by a collective employer or company. I think a lot of times it's adapted by the individuals that hold those higher positions.
yes,
And it's
100%.
almost like this elitist club where like you don't know what I had to do to get in here. So
Exactly.
and I'm not going to tell you.
Dude, okay.
But you can keep throwing spaghetti at the wall until something sticks.
Dude, you nailed it. You nailed it. And like the reason why I'm smiling at this is because you and I have never talked about this
No.
ever, right? And I've always said what you've said this entire time. And you use the analogy of high school. I've used it too, because what I call it is actually the cool kids table, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
so what ends up happening is that you create this cool kids table, right? Where then everybody else is an outsider to that one, right? So
Right.
then that's when you end up creating these environments where then you go like, well, what is being said at the cool kids table? Hey, can I sit at the cool kids table? Right? And then they go, no, you don't belong. Right? Well, why don't I belong? I thought, I mean, I was cool last week when I was like
Now this
fucking
meeting is
finishing.
only for
Right. I
yeah.
was cool. I was cool last week when I was finishing 10 projects. When I
Right.
was like fucking eating shit, I was cool last week.
When you came
Why
out
aren't I
here and
cool?
like, rubbed my back and told me how great I was doing, that doesn't mean anything. Like that doesn't
Right,
mean I should
right,
know the inner workings of what's going on here.
right, right. And that's like, here's the thing, man. Like I also want to like everybody to know that like it's okay to have friendships within the cool kids table, right? Like
Oh yeah.
if you have friendships in the cool kids table and there are conversations that you have in those conversations that you can't really talk about outside to anybody else, that's okay. But I encourage people that are in the cool kids table, when the outsiders come in and they say, hey, can I get in on this? It's good for you to say, hey, this is how you get here, or this is how you can get here, or be honest about the fact that it will never happen, right? Like, and it's okay for you to do that. And then also, it's okay for you to say, hey, the conversation that I had with X, right? That one stays between us because it's not related to work. It's something that we had a direct connection with, and that's something that is outside of work. But to me, anything that's within the realm of work, like, be open about it.
Right. I
Discuss
mean,
it.
dude, I can remember specifically. I can remember there was a point in my life where I wanted to focus on becoming better at what I was doing to get a promotion. Um, and specifically, I went up to a couple experienced people, different people, and I did this on purpose. I wanted to kind of get like a temperature check from a couple different people to see kind of what things were consistent, what things were different, along those lines, because there's a certain amount of distrust that just exists
Yes.
flat across that
Yes.
like you can't you can't take everybody at their word in corporate America because they always have their own best interest in mind, not anybody else's.
Absolutely.
But I can remember asking the question, the plain and simple question, how do I get promoted?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
How do I get to that next level?
mm-hmm.
And I was very clear, and in my heart, like a lot of people can say, "Oh, well, you could say that," but no, it wasn't necessarily about the money. Like it literally was something that I was interested in learning, or I would have been going and doing something else.
Right, right.
Um, but my point is one of the things that was consistent is they answered with a question of, "Are you good at politics?" And I'm like, "What the fuck does that have to do with anything?" But then I quickly found out, and I mean, truth is, yes, I am pretty good at that game, but um the long and short of it is why is there this, like, if you don't know and you're the guy who's doing it but you don't know, which I truthfully do believe is the case, um that's not good.
Right. Exactly.
that's
Well,
that's
like,
not good because I feel like some of the stuff that we're talking about here, it's the same thing on the next level.
yeah, absolutely.
Your core fellow employee group is just smaller and your responsibility is higher.
Right. Well, the thing
That's
is that
really
like,
the only difference.
well, and the thing is that like when you have these elements of secrecy, right? What ends up happening is that you make the people that you support start questioning whether or not they're doing the right thing. Like why am I not cool enough to be part of the cool kids table, right? Why am I not cool enough to know what that other person knows, right?
Right.
And then you end up going, well, maybe what? Maybe am I getting fired? Right?
Right.
Like that's the kind of the thought that you go through, that whole thought process, because you're like, I should know this, but I don't know it. So am I getting fired? Right. And
Right.
and again, like this is not something that the employer does on purpose, but I think that like they need to be aware of that. They need to be aware that like people need to have that temperature check to say, hey, am I communicating with my team effectively the way that I should? Am I letting them know the information that they really deserve? Am I also managing them to take them to that level where I can include them at that table, right? Because again, like some of the conversations that are being had at that table, not everybody's privy to. I get that, but it's okay for that person that's sitting at that table, when I have a conversation with them, for them to say, hey, that's not something I can disclose right now. Here's why, but here's when you may be expecting something from that. And if you can't disclose the time, that's okay too. Say that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like there's nothing wrong with just saying, hey, I can't disclose the time. Hey, I this is being done this way because of this. But it's when those explanations that are not made that then you begin speculating on your own. And then you end up coming up with these different scenarios that may or may not be real, but your mind is already tarnished by the fact that that could potentially happen.
Well, dude, and in corporate America, like I think it runs on, at least in my what I did in corporate America, runs on caffeine, nicotine, and fear of
That's
being
true, man.
fired.
That's true.
And I mean that in, like, dude, I felt like every day was the NFL draft, right? Like, am I a rock star today? Nope. Nope.
Mhm.
I am third string, ladies and gentlemen. I am
Yeah.
playing for the college team for the fifth year.
Yeah, I'm the
Like,
water boy.
right. And then there's other times where it's like, okay, I'm starting to rock star a little bit. And
Yeah.
then, like, I don't know, man. I have specifically I developed a lot of people under me by actually just teaching them how to manage people.
And
Under stuff that worked for me. And
right.
like they kind of filled in the blanks. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of companies, this is where the company uses that politics as a tool. Like I don't think they design it. I don't think they put it out there like, "Hey, be extra shady about this."
Right, right.
I feel like they do things and they understand the very top level kind of understands how the politics work. So they just like sprinkle little pieces and parts in, and then the whole thing just grows by itself.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too far off topic, but
No. You definitely brought up something, that's real, right? Like, I mean, these are things that actually happen at the corporate level. And I'm not saying that that's what happened where I worked. These are all just statements from previous employers. These are statements from things that I've read, things that I've seen in, like, blogs and stuff like that. But these are things that are real, and these are things that, like, sometimes we as the employee don't talk about because, again, we don't want to be seen as this negative person, right? Like,
right.
for me, for example,
Like,
right
dude,
now, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
Like,
it's okay.
for me right now, like, I'm in this place where the shit that I'm saying here is very scary because, like, I'm afraid that people, like, if I end up going back to the workforce, right? When I go back to the workforce, or and if I go back to the workforce, right? Like, that's one of those things that, like, I'm afraid that people are going to pull up some of these videos and be like, "Hey man, you were the asshole that said this," right? But
Yeah, but
honestly,
you also got to remember too, because there's a couple things that you talked about just in today's episode right here. Within the last couple, an hour or a couple minutes, however long we've been doing it. Um, that I think if an employer were to watch this episode 5 years from now, if they didn't watch the entire thing, they would miss the context, and that would be their fault.
yeah,
Because there's so many different pieces and parts, and sometimes I will say sometimes in the beginning, that refreshing outlook of a guy who's willing to call out the same thing that everybody else talks about. Um, I think I don't think there's anything here that would, in my opinion, or at least it shouldn't, uh, prevent you from moving forward with an opportunity in the future, man. Because I
no,
think there's a lot of things that you talk about, and I again want to give you some credit here as to like what you've been able to do professionally up until this point. Is I think that you've become somebody who, like, your favorite thing to do is to teach, train, and develop other people to make the business better. Like,
absolutely,
it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And somebody who truthfully cares about it. And I'm not talking about somebody who says in a job interview that they care about it.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, like, I appreciate you saying that because, like I said, I mean, half of the stuff that I say on here, like, I'm like, after I say it, like, I'm like,
He's over here
shit.
biting his nails.
Yeah,
You
I'm
see
like,
the
shit.
sweat.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, shit. Was I supposed to say that? But here's the
Oops.
thing, man. Like, I know I'm not the only one that feels this. I'm not the only one that's questioning this in terms of, like, your own sanity. I mean, like, I know I'm not the only one. I know that there are people out there that have felt this way. And why do I know that? Because some of those people have reached out to me and have, like, hit me up on the side. And here's the thing, right? Like, this is where I know that our work industry is so broken, right? The fact that people can't say the things that they've thought about on a public forum, or they're not able to say it on a large scale
In
because
fear.
in fear that they're going to be, also excluded, or, like, again, blackballed, right? Like, that's the type of thing that, like, it needs to go away. Like, our work environment is so in favor of the employer and not the employee, right? And that's the thing that I want to convey. That's the thing that I want people to hear out. And that's where right now, if for you guys listening, right? And I'm hoping that this one makes it to a lot of people. I'm hoping that for those of you that have stories, and some of you have already shared them, right? But some of you that have stories that do not feel like you can, or you don't have the forum for it, hit us up on the side.
Hit us up on at info@dadmandude.net.
Absolutely.
Um, just please tag in the subject line "Dear Dads"
Yeah.
or "Dear
Yeah.
Dudes" or "Dear Dadman Dude," however you want to word it. And tell us about the stories. Make sure you list in there whether you want us to, keep it anonymous, however you want to do it. It could be completely anonymous. I think it would be a really cool thing, man, because I
No,
think there's a lot of stories out there that go untold in the world just based on the intercompany corporate politics.
exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
it just pushes people down, man. I mean, one thing that I wanted to bring up real quick, because it's like a prime example, and I know you can relate to this.
Sure.
Have you ever been a middle level manager and be asked to take a survey about your boss.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're a middle level manager and you have aspirations to move up within the company, all of the answers are always good.
Right. Yes.
Like,
yes.
And if you want to be even slightly negative about anything, you try to explain it into something else's fault.
Yes.
While you're doing it. So you never actually get fully truthful feedback.
Exactly. And that right there is a big problem.
Can
that
we
is
start a campaign real quick off of this?
I know, that's what I'm thinking
like,
about, the
fuck
same thing
fake
too.
feedback.
No, seriously, fuck
The
fake
3
feedback.
F's. Fuck
No.
fake feedback.
I like it. I mean, like, seriously, like, people, like, we need to know how we can better
It's going
ourselves.
on my LinkedIn tomorrow.
It should, but we need to learn how to better ourselves as human beings, right? And it's and that's where, like, it's okay for us to hear some of the things that are not so great. It sucks. In another episode, I talk about how I'm a shitty fucking friend. That sucks. To come to the realization that I'm a shitty friend sucks, but I needed to hear it. And Brandon was one of them to actually tell me. He actually said it to my face in the actual the podcast, right? You actually said it, that you were like, I agree with you that you're a shitty friend. And like,
well, I will tell you this, man. I think this is the only part where I can look at my time in corporate. The thing that I disliked the most is that I decided to be a shitty friend and focus on this thing that didn't give a fuck about me. You know what I mean? And that was kind of powerful to me, is like, especially not being in corporate. Like, me and the owner of my company have conversations. I probably talk to him more than I talk to my fiance. You know what I mean? And that the feeling behind that is big for me, because, like, it's not that, it doesn't mean anything as far as, like, some mythical BS. It means more to me in that, like, this guy that owns the company values my opinion enough to discuss daily business and to go back and forth about everything in the entire company, and that I have a huge hand in making stuff happen. You don't ever feel that when you're in corporate America. You don't. And I mean, I think it does exist in small niches in different places. I do believe it does exist within teams in corporate America. I do believe it does exist. So I'm not just bashing corporate everything, but I think that, kind of like you said, man, I hope that as a society we decide to move that forward. Like, there's a lot of cool things. This month is mental health awareness month. Which, funny enough, a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about, I didn't know that was this month. We just started talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It was kind of weird timing, and I think it's for the good, though. Like, I think it truthfully, to me, it was like proof that, like, I put some stuff out in the world and the world listened.
Right. Well, and that's the thing that, like, I want people to understand that, like, you're right. We're not sitting here bashing companies, and we're not sitting here bashing employers. What we're sitting here doing is questioning the foundations, the elements,
I think, truthfully, man, we're sitting here talking about thoughts of an employee.
Yes, absolutely.
Thoughts of a manager, not thoughts. I mean, don't get me wrong, that employee may be a manager of other people, but it's truthfully the thoughts that go through everybody's head as an employee of a company.
Right.
You know what I mean? That internal argument that goes back and forth, because let's face it, folks, if all of us could not have to go to work, and don't get me wrong, like, I know a lot of people that are very passionate about what they do. They love what they do. But if the situation provided itself where you could just be independently wealthy, then I think a lot more people would choose that than work.
Well, and that's the thing. You brought up another great aspect of this, right? Is the fact that, like, I don't have a choice whether or not I want to work. Like, nobody does. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so for me, right, like, I'm in this journey now where I am looking for a place, or somehow I can support myself by continuing to actually still be a human being, right? That's the thing that I'm seeking. I am seeking to be okay with the fact that, like, my prime time hours are from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. I'm fucking kill it during that time period. Why?
Right.
Because it's quiet. My brain is active at that point, right? But the problem is that I can't utilize that because there are constraints that certain employers put in, right? And again, like, there's certain roles that will require specific hours. I understand that too. I'm not saying this as one blanket statement. What I'm saying is that question the things that are being done by our employers and really make a determination if they have to be that way, right? Like, one of the
Well,
biggest topics right now, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. One of the
no, you're
things
good.
that was a big topic right now is returning to work and whether or not you want to remain a remote employee or go back to the office, right? And I know that people are on the fence of either one, right? So my thing is, like, why not let people decide what they want to do? They are human beings, and they probably know more about themselves than anything else, right? Now, if you have a situation where, again, using employee Nelson H at this point, right? If you're using Nelson H as the employer, if Nelson H has elected to be an employee that wants to be fully remote, then Nelson H better get his shit together and get his shit done, right? If Nelson H does not get his shit done, then that's when you can have the conversations with Nelson H and say, hey, these are the things that we've noticing. These are the things of how you can actually make them better. Here's how you can, like, move forward with it, right? And if that at that moment, if that doesn't work and you have to have direct supervision of that person, then you either have to decide if A, you want to force them to come to the office so that you can babysit them, right? Or B, you have to decide whether or not they're the right employee, and if you are actually going to continue to pursue that path of catering to that person that's a low performer, right? Like, that's not what I'm asking you to do either. If somebody's a low performer, somebody's a low performer, but let
Well,
them work in the best conditions that they're capable of doing it.
absolutely. And my thing is in that too, not to play the other side, but I think a lot of people need to do a better job of looking for jobs that meet not only who they are, but like highlight their skill set. That maybe we take more things into consideration when looking for a job other than just how much they're paying and what their benefits package looks like. Instead of just walking in there and going, all right, how much are you going to pay me? Because if you tell me this big outrageous number, I don't care what you tell me I have to do, I'm going to do it until you show up and you do it every day for a length of time. And then you're like, bro, I fucked up.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
and it's like not really understanding the responsibilities before you say yes.
Right.
So I think, what I have done is, decided to go back to the private sector, but then at the same time, like if I were to ever interview or maybe think about taking another run at it in the corporate world, I think the only thing that I think it would have to be very suiting for me.
Hmm.
Um and like the culture of the company would have to align with mine. Um, like there are some no go points that have nothing to do with money or benefits.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
work life balance, time with family, time to disconnect completely. And like the coolest part, I think, about that is one of the cool parts about where in my position in the company I work for right now is I am allowed those things. You know, maybe some more than others, but it's also a necessity to keep it running, which is that keeps my blood pumping a little bit.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a little different. But at the same time, man, like if we think about those things ahead of time while we're going through interviews in the future, so like if there's anybody at home that's out there kind of going along this or listening to this and potentially making a plan, have the after be part of the plan. right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and plan to make a change start to finish. Don't just plan to make a change of holy shit, I'm going to quit my job. But when I go to look for another job, and I'm sure you'll do this, I mean, you'll have more scrutiny to the pieces and parts that truthfully mean something to you in
Hmm.
the future. And I think, that's probably better explained by you 3 episodes from now, but or 5 episodes from now, or maybe never. I don't know. But at the same time, like, I'm interested to see how it becomes in your specific situation, how differently you look at things, if and when you decide to go back to the corporate world. Like, because I know that's one of the things where it feels like I would be forced to make a change, like with all the positive that's come along with what you've been doing so far. Like, I would be forced to make a change going forward for sure.
No, you're and you touched on something that's very, very true, right? So back when I was looking for work a few years ago, right? I would look at the job description. I would be like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay, salary. Oh, great, that fits in line. Let's do it. Let's apply. Let's sign up. No, that to me has shifted now. Like I, salary to me is important because
There is
I
a
obviously
baseline number.
like right, like I have to pay bills, right? Again, we all work because we have to pay bills, right? So I have to pay bills. So there is a base number that I have to go by. But at the same time, there's also other factors that I'm now looking into, right? Like I'm truly looking at the work-life balance, right? I'm looking to see if that is something that's really, really practiced by a specific group, company, whatever it may be, right? I'm looking to see what their benefits are, right? So there's a lot of things that are now playing into this new me, but these are things that have evolved throughout the years because of things that I've seen, things that I felt, and that's where now, like the purpose of me talking about my experience is just so that I can get an understanding of what it is that like we as the people like I sound like a fucking politician right now, but like we, like we the people, meaning like the employees, what we really want, right? That's something that's very important, and like like I to this day, like I don't understand the 40-hour work week. I don't get it, right? Like I work it because that's what I
The
signed up to
standard is
do, right?
right.
But I don't get it. Like if I'm able to get my job done in 20 hours, right? Why am I being punished to do 20 hours worth of nothing, right? Just
The
because of the fact that
filler.
like I'm required to do that. Like that doesn't make sense to me. And I think that you are if you're putting yourself in that place or if your employer's putting you in that place, then I feel like they're creating a disservice for everybody, right? One, because the employer at that point is probably overpaying, right? Because if they could find somebody that can do it at 20 hours, then pay them for the 20 hours and then see if there's other work that can be done and you can pay them for that as well, right?
Right.
For the employee, if they can get it done in 20 hours, then why should they have to waste their time another 20 just looking at their screen? It doesn't make sense to me, right? So those are the type of things that I'm asking people to share, like the things that you've questioned, the things that like have
Well, dude,
either
and one thing I want to say that it's just kind of hitting me in this is, and maybe if there are any, corporate upper management that that are listening to this that want to kind of take a blind guy's outlook on things real quick, but yeah, I think I'm fearful that if I would ever go through the exact situation you were going through, um, it would hinder me from, I would like to consider myself a good manager of people, a good developer of people. I would definitely consider you one of those people, but I would almost be fearful that it would hinder you from making a decision to want to manage people.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
it
I
would.
mean, what's preventing you from just saying, okay, I don't want to be a manager. I just want to be a really good employee.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And how
Yeah.
many people get stuck in that where it's like because of the politics, because of the the lack of give a shit, because of the cool kids table, because of all this other stuff, you could, a business owner could have, and not even just an owner, but I'm talking on a corporate level here, a large, billion-dollar company or million-dollar company could have a bunch of really good managers that already work for them, but because either A, they got burnt out, or B, they were forced to be burnt out, that they don't even, like, they could make you that next million, but
Right.
they're just chilling on the sidelines because of the environment inside the management echelon.
Yeah. No,
And I mean to call it that on purpose.
you nailed it. That's exactly it, man. Like like we are a product of the environment that we're in, right?
Right.
And like you said, there are some people that are 100% happy just doing what they're supposed to, what they signed up to do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you shouldn't have to be hungry for the next role just because you want to move up. Like, I'm not seeking, like a promotion every single time. That's not real, right?
Right.
Like, people that like are hungry for promotions, like, to me, you are, I don't even know what to call it.
And I
You're
think what you mean by that too, I want to be specific, because I know I've been hungry for promotion in times. I've been hungry for promotions at times in the past, where I really wanted to learn a different part of the business. And the
right.
only way for me to do that was a promotion.
Well,
But that's a little bit different. I think what you're talking about is these people that, because I've seen them and I've run into them in corporate world too, is the ones that are willing to play games to get there just for the money.
right, exactly. And that doesn't get anybody anywhere, right? So, and even using your example of, like, um you were seeking a promotion because you want to learn something else, like that right there, that's broken too, right? Like,
Right.
the fact that you have to think that way is broken. Why isn't that, like, I can learn that stuff, right? But at the same time, like, also find ways to encourage your people to seek those opportunities, right? Because that's the other thing. Like, when those opportunities aren't there, that is also part of the reason why people end up leaving, right? It's because of the fact that you don't have these opportunities. You don't have these things that you could learn, right? Like, I've stayed in roles before where I was underpaid because I really wanted to learn and they were giving me the opportunity to learn. So I'll take that all day, because that is, to me, that was the trade off at the time, right? Well, now I'm in this place where, yeah, I'm still learning. I love to learn. I I enjoy learning something new every day. I don't consider myself perfect. I consider myself, a manager that has made mistakes along the way. I've also, there are people that I've managed pretty well, and those people have become successful managers in their own right, and they've developed people in their own right, right? So, like, it's a matter of, again, really understanding what your employee wants, right? Because, like, again, not every employee wants the same. Not every employee is hungry for the same thing. Not every employee is motivated by the same thing. Timmy may be motivated by promotion and more money, while Tony may be motivated by the fact that he wants to feel like he is important in the grand scheme of things, right? Or Jane may feel that, like, she is valued by the fact that there's, like, an announcement made by the project that she actually led forward. There's different levels to how people feel valued. That is what I'm asking. If you're in a manager position, think about that. Like, talk to your people about that.
Like
Figure
real
out what.
recognition, not
Right.
not
Yeah.
actual just BS, company programs to make
Yes.
sure that recognition exists within their walls. Like
Yes. Yes.
actual recognition for time spent and things earned, I guess.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean that in
Absolutely.
a shitty way.
No. I think you meant it in a really, really positive way. So, like, again, I
Well,
want
that
to
was my
continue.
corporate fear coming back, that I had
It was. It was.
to say it out loud, that I meant it in a good way.
Right.
And
Right.
I find that I still have a lot of that stuff was like, dude, I feel like there's a small amount of brainwashing that goes on where like it changes you as a person sometimes. And dude, I think that kind of brings the whole thing full circle. Is I think that's, in your explanation as to why you made the decision to do the things that you did, which was really powerful to me. Um, I think you kind of meant it this way, is that it really is just going to be about what's best for you.
Hmm.
And I feel like a lot of times one of the coolest things that I've ever done is there was an old guy that taught me this in the corporate world, and he's like, listen, have the, they're going to tell you got to have, review meetings with all the employees that work for you, right? But also have that be an attrition meeting at the same time,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and start looking at it as almost like the coach of a sports team, because he knew that I like sports. So look at it that way. You have to plan that if you have a guy that does great things, he might move on to something bigger and better than where you're at, and pretty quickly. So
Mhm.
who else are you going to get to go in there? And
Exactly.
then, say you have a guy, and I mean, even for on the negative side too, is like plan for that. Like plan to have to replace somebody if that's what you have to do. Do those things, do the due diligence, and dude, stack your deck. Like make sure that you can develop each person into the best person that they need to be to fit into the puzzle of the team and drive the whole machine forward, with also taking them individually into consideration of where they want their machine to go.
Absolutely.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? If
Yeah.
we could have more people like that, and dude, I hate to say it, but I think a lot of the thoughts that like I'm talking about right now, a lot of the thoughts that you're talking about right now, they wind up never being said out loud.
Mhm.
Because I could be wrong, but and again, I've only worked for a couple of corporate companies in my life, not a lot. So maybe I'm not an expert on that, but I think a lot of that stuff gets lost in middle management.
I agree. I think it really does. Um, and like one of the other things that I definitely want to call out to in terms of being a good manager, right? Like, and you touch base on it here too. Like, plan for some people. Some people are going to move on, right? Like, and that's okay. It's realistic, right? But the other thing too is that you, as a leader, as a manager, whatever you want to call it, right? You have to develop your people regardless of whether or not they're going to stay at where you are or they're going to move on. It doesn't matter. And let me tell you, it is fucking rewarding when 4 years, 5 years pass and you cross paths with that person. I actually like made a post about this on LinkedIn. But when you cross paths with somebody that you've worked with previously, and the first thing that they say to you is, "Hey man, it was great seeing you. Like, you know what? Like, I had great time working with you. It was amazing. Like, we had a lot of fun." That shit right there, that is what drives me.
Dude, it's really cool that you brought that up, because I was thinking about this along the way and trying to figure out how to bring it up, but I had one of those moments myself just a couple of weeks ago.
See, and that shit was rewarding,
Where
right?
dude, like just the fact that I walked in the door and three employees were like, "Brandon, what are you doing?" Like
Yes, yes,
and instantly like, "Great to see you. We miss you, blah blah blah." It's been like a long time. Like
yes,
7 years, 6 years? Like, that's a long time, and for them, and again, in the setting and scenario that this happened, they had been through a lot of me's that had come through the door.
hmm,
It
hmm,
was definitely an opportunity, a place of opportunity for some things. So like a lot of different people were scattered all over that place. But for them to really embrace me like that, man, like it was really cool. And that means that I made enough of an effect in their life that, and I don't mean to sound like I didn't like do anything crazy, but the fact that they remembered who I was and I just wasn't another ship passing in the night. And I had people ask me about my kid by her name.
Yeah, see?
6 years later, like, dude, if somebody takes the time to remember your life outside of work, that means they actually care about you.
Exactly, exactly.
So
Well,
you
and
created an environment that was ideal for whatever it was you were trying to get done.
exactly, exactly. You nailed it, man. And that's where if you if you have kids and you've walked through the door after having a fucking hard ass day and your kid runs up to you and they say, "Daddy" or "Mommy," whatever, right? And that hug that they give you, that is what it feels like when you find a former employer that then says to you, "Hey man, it's good seeing you." Like,
Absolutely.
that's the feeling that you get. You almost get that same level of excitement where you're like, "Damn, this shit it was one of the
Like
realest moments."
it brings a little of a like an emotion
It
to
does,
the
man.
entire thing.
It again, it validates you as a human being, right?
Well,
Because
like you spend the whole time doing it, trying to leave emotion out, and then you experience something like this in the long run because you're kind of told that in corporate you got to leave your emotions out of it. You know what I mean? So you
exactly.
try to go along and affect all these people, but I just think it's funny to look back at sometimes. And in a couple of those situations, I can remember being told by someone else, both my superior and maybe not my superior, that I was terrible at my job. And then this scenario happens where these people, I run into these people out in the world, and then I know that the people that were telling me that I was terrible had no idea what they were talking about.
Exactly. Exactly, man.
And it's kind of like, wait, what?
Right, right. Right. And like and that's the type of shit that like again, circling back to the mental health environment, right? That's the type of shit that fucks with your head. Right? Like
That's the type of shit that starts to change who you are, man.
exactly, exactly. So,
And
like for you guys again that are listening to us right now, like I want you to kind of do this self test, and if you can put your results in the comments if you can. If not, go ahead and hit us up on the side again. Info at dadmandude.net. Here's what I'm going to ask you: how many of you, seriously, how many of you have actually called out because you needed a mental health day? And like it flat out said it, you need a mental health day.
absolutely. I want
I
to know the answer to that.
I guarantee you that
And
the majority have not done it. They usually say things like, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. Hey, my kid is sick. Hey, I got to do this. Hey, I have this doctor's appointment," right?
right.
Like but nobody like that's the thing that like I want to break that stigma, that nastiness that comes around when you just go, "Hey man, I'm tired of everybody's shit and I just need a day off." Like to me that should be something that's okay to be said because that's true. There are days where you just need a reset and like you're not sick, you're not ill, you're not like you just need to disconnect.
Well,
And
and dude, I think there's another big thing there too is if if you're being a good like if you're doing a good job at your job and there's no actual performance issues, right? What is wrong with you being in charge of your own destiny and saying, "Listen, I cannot bring you today because of X, Y, and Z, regardless of the reason, whether it was work related, home related, whatever. Today, I cannot bring you the quality that I traditionally bring you."
correct. Yes. And that should
And
be okay to say.
in fact, today I don't even think I can bring you anything.
Yes. Yes.
So I need to take the day to reset to get it to where the remainder of the week or the remainder of whatever that I can continue to bring you the product as promised.
Correct.
You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
and to have an employer actually go, "All right,
I mean like think about
sounds
this,
good
right?
to me."
Think about this. Think about this for a minute, right? The only other person that you probably spend most of your time with is either your spouse, right? Or your significant other, kids, your pets, and work. Those are the people that you probably spend most of your time with, right? I guarantee you that the other people you are 100% comfortable with telling them that you are not feeling okay and that your mental headspace or your headspace is not right.
Right.
Right? You are 100% comfortable telling that. One, you're okay telling your pets because
They
they
don't talk
probably don't
back.
understand, right? You're okay telling your spouse because they see you, they understand. And here's the thing that's fucking crazy is the fact that your employer, whom again you're spending 40 hours a week with, you don't feel comfortable reaching out and saying, I'm tired of your shit. Give me a day off. You're not
Right.
comfortable with doing that. Instead, you have to lie and you have to say, I'm sick. And then what happens is that, like, for me, right, because I'm an anxiety fucking filled person, if I say I'm sick, then my brain goes, well, fuck, tomorrow, what am I going to say? Like, what am I supposed to say
Right.
when I go back to work? I'm not sick anymore. I had a 1 day cold. No, like, that's not true. The truth is that, like, I wasn't feeling, like you said, Brandon, I wasn't feeling 100%. I can't give you the thing that I usually bring you. I can't give you the full, the I was gonna say the full Delson. That's like a wrestling
The
move.
full Monty.
The full Monty. But like I can't bring the full me, and I can't give you the best version of me because my headspace is not there. And I feel like we should be comfortable with saying that. But again, the problem is that, like, we don't feel comfortable because, one, we're going to get judged, right? So we feel like the next day when we go to work, they're going to be like, oh, there's that crazy asshole again. No,
The
bitch.
psycho's back.
Yeah. And it's like, no, bitch, I'm not sick. I'm
Right.
just not feeling okay up here, but it's going to go away, So I want.
And I think the only problem with that is I do believe that we live in a society, just like you said, that is more apt to lie about it.
Yes. It's easier to
And
lie.
but that's what I'm saying is, on the same token, from an employer's perspective, at the same time, is, can we trust everyone the same to accept that? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so we make it okay. Like, say we instituted this within the company that I work at, right? And we say, okay, at any point you can call out due to needing a mental health day, blah blah blah. Now, the thing where I think a lot of companies may be hesitant is, okay, how many mental health days does one get? You know what I mean? Because we all know that like, everybody just seems to take everything in excess. Where it's like, oh, I can do that, so that means I can work 4 days a week.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, and then it becomes even harder as a manager of people to deal with that scenario on top of still getting, just running a business.
Yes.
So it's like the whole system's like designed to fail.
Well, it is. It is designed to fail because it was never created with the intention of really taking the employee into consideration. It was built on, like, making it a streamlined process in the benefit of a corporation or a company, right? And again, like, this goes back to, like, the Industrial Revolution and all this other shit, which is, again, a bigger topic, and I'd love to go into that one of these days. You can check us out with that topic in one of our segments in Uncut, probably.
Absolutely.
But with this one in particular, like, we are, and I'm gonna add a layer to this, right? Because if you're a former manager of mine or a supervisor, like, I don't want you to take what I'm saying as a direct shot to you, right? Because I don't want to say that my manager did not accept that I needed a mental health day. What I'm saying is that there is still sensitivity around taking time off because of a mental health day. And in return, we are forced to lie about why it is that we need the day off, as opposed to us just saying, I cannot put up with people's shit today. Right? That's what I'm trying to say with this whole thing. So,
And it's and just like you said, not to throw it at any of my managers along the way, because let's face it, man, like, it's like a weird game of telephone
yeah,
once you start getting up there.
Yes, it is.
in the corporate ladder. It's like I get it. It's not my boss that cares about a mental health day. It's it's the company.
Right.
This thing that doesn't really have a face. It's
Yes. Yes.
they would not accept that.
Right.
And it's like, do I be the manager that accepts that and then catch hell for it? Like
Hmm.
it's like there's there's like scales at every level
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
like, I don't want to be that guy.
Right. Right. Right.
Comply, comply, comply.
Yes. Yes. So, so again, right, like the thing that like I'm asking you guys because this is where I want to hear your side. We want to hear your side. We want to hear what it is that you guys are thinking. We also want you to like tell us if we're batshit crazy, right? Like this is where I'm asking you, think about that. Like when was
Have
the
me and
last
Nelson just
time
experienced the 1% by ourselves?
we did? We
Like
did.
miraculously?
Yes, totally. But like we want to hear how many of you have truly felt comfortable calling out because you needed a mental health day and you've actually said it that way. I want to know, right? Um,
I also want to know if you've ever been a manager that somebody has called out using that reason. Has somebody
yes,
ever called out to you, and what were your thoughts and battles that you had there of how to go about accepting that, not accepting it, and what the outcome was?
yes, yes. And I can tell you that previously, back in my early years of managing, I can tell you that I would feel uncomfortable if somebody called me and said that they had an issue, that they were calling out because they needed a mental health, right? Because in my mind, back then, I would have gone, well, one, like, there's a couple layers to this. One, I didn't know myself I had an issue back then, right? I didn't realize I was anxiety driven. I didn't know that. So for me, when I hear you have a mental issue, right? Like back then, I would have seen it as
Oh, I can tell you right now, I would have seen it as, oh, we got a problem child.
correct. Yes, exactly.
But that was what I
Exactly.
was taught. I'm not saying that I agree with that.
Right.
And looking back on it, it's definitely a different scenario.
And that's where
Um,
like you and I have grown in that aspect, right? Where now I've had people actually call me, employees that have gone, hey man, like I'm not feeling great. I've actually told I tell the people that I manage and those of you that I've managed in the past, like one, I'm sorry that I was your manager because I'm a dickhead. But for those of you that I manage, like, like I've always said that to people. Like, it's important that you take care of your mental health first. Like that comes first. There are days where you're not gonna be yourself. There are days that you're not gonna be 100%. And I've said this to people. It is 100% okay for you to take a day if you're not feeling great. I've said that,
right.
right? And to me, I'm very passionate about that. But again, I don't think that we in the corporate environment have really, really accepted that. And again, if I'm wrong, tell me. I'm more
Right.
than happy to hear it.
That was another thing I wanted to throw out there is if anybody listening at home really like, if you work for a company somewhere that um is nothing like what we've just described, can you tell us about that? Like,
Yes.
I'm not saying you don't have to disclose what company it is, anything like that. I'm just very interested to know that the dynamic exists.
Yes, exactly.
And that something that someone somewhere somehow some way somebody rewrote that shit from the inside.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
because, and hey, and again, I mean that in a good way, in a positive way, because I think if a company was able to address 90% of the things that we've discussed today, um well, clearly they're not getting enough credit for what they're doing,
Absolutely.
because uh, we don't know who they are.
And clearly they found the recipe that works. So it's
Right.
okay, like
So
we
let's
want to know because we want to put it out for everybody else to see and everybody else to know that there is an option out there other than
somebody tag Elon, ask him how it works.
yeah, that was a good one.
Sorry, I had to.
um so yeah, like I am in the state to learn. I want to figure things out. I want to appreciate stuff. Um you know, I want to make it. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second. Sorry, guys. I don't know if I'm gonna include this in the episode or not, but if I do,
Yeah, whatever.
but if I do, the reason why I walked away was because my daughter has a show tonight for Ariel, and I needed to, you know, tell her goodbye, wish her good luck. Again, these are the type of things that are more important to me than anybody else. And you guys know that I love
Bro, I
Brandon,
want it in the show.
right? Like, and you guys know that I love Brandon. But again, like, you know, like to me, I want my kids to see how important that they are. And this is important to me. I've talked to you guys about it, but I also want them to know how important they are to me, right? And these are the type of things that I wasn't able to do in the past, right? Different reasons, right? And one of the reasons that I'm tackling with this segment, right, which is again the morning blend side of things, is us discussing our feelings and us telling you what we go through. Again, I grew up with a stigma that I, as a male, could not share feelings. That's what I grew up with. And that's not no fault to anybody. Like my mother is fucking awesome. My father is fucking awesome. I love them to death. They're both great people.
But we
But
grew up in an era where you couldn't share your feelings, bro.
correct.
Like it was a very I think it was more of a societal thing
it
than
was a
than an
societal
individual thing. Like I don't think anybody individually gets to get
No,
blamed for that one
no. I
at
mean, like,
all.
from like the, the Latinx community, right?
Right.
Like for us, it comes from the fact that like we're traditionally very like machismo, right? Like we can't be a particular way or else we look inferior to others, right? Or we're
Don't look like a
sissies,
bitch.
right? We're sissies. We're bitches, right? And
Right.
like, dude, I'm gonna look at the camera right now. I am a bitch.
Who
I'm a
cares?
bitch. But you know what? Like, at least I'm happy and I'm sharing what's
But my
happening
thing
here.
is the other part to this, man, is that we're realizing that um I'm only a bitch if I think I'm a bitch.
Exactly.
You know what
That
I mean?
that was my next point. Yes.
Is like no matter what anybody says, I'm only who I say I am.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? Here's where you're gonna get a glimpse of asshole Nelson.
Oh boy.
Do you motherfuckers pay my bills? No, you don't. I pay them. So I can be a bitch all I want.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
so and
Preach, brother Nelson. Preach.
hey. But no, like I want people that are listening to us to really understand and see that there's more to life than just what we are used to doing. That's what I want people to see. I'm not encouraging people to like fucking quit their job. I'm also not encouraging people to go in there and like fucking slap their bosses across the face. This is not what that is.
Bro,
Right now, this is
I'm encouraging people just to think about it.
exactly.
Like
That is
step
what I want.
one, think about it. Have it be
Yes.
a present thought in your mind of your own mental and physical health.
Yes,
Have it
exactly.
be a thought daily. I mean, literally, think about what decision is going to be best for you and how you are going to make it through.
Yes. And the more that you talk about it, the
Bro,
more normal it becomes.
I can't tell you how saying it out loud, even us discussing this on this forum, even if this forum didn't even exist, even if the channel wasn't here, Dab and Do wasn't a thing, if me and you were having this conversation, just, homie to homie, like saying some of this stuff out loud, and not only what we've talked about today, but I'm learning how powerful saying things out loud is.
Yes.
And like it sounds so dumb, but it is the original keep it simple stupid method of, hey, talk about it,
Absolutely.
release it, let it go. And I don't mean let it go like never think about it again. I mean let it go like let it come out, experience it in that moment, and then do something about it, or decide that it's not worth doing something about.
Exactly. Like the thing is that like the recipe that I am outlining may not taste good to everybody. And I'm not expecting it to taste good for anybody.
But
All
it
I'm
tastes good
expecting,
to us.
and I'm expecting you to take the recipe and then you go, hey man, these are the things that I like about it. These are the things that I don't. And then you make the best choice for you. And again, if you're sitting there and you're happy at your job, you're happy with what you're doing, keep kicking ass, keep killing it, right? If you're not happy because of any variable, think about this and think about whether or not you are the person that belongs in that realm. Think about what's important to you. That's basically what we want out of this thing. And again, we want to learn. We want to hear what you guys have to say. When you guys give us a like on our videos, it validates what we're saying. So to me, it's not just about, getting a like because I want to feel cool. No, I mean, yeah, there's a factor to it where I just go, shit, I said something that people like. But there's an aspect to it where I look at the like and I go, well, fuck, I'm not alone.
Right.
I'm not alone.
It's an association, right? It becomes it's validation at its finest when it comes to those thoughts. And sometimes, to be honest, when you're having those weird, questionable thoughts in your head, they kind of need to be validated or not in order for you to believe them.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
I think that's huge. I think another part of this, man, is like, I do have to say this, and it is Mental Health Awareness Month. If anybody that's listening to this or comes across one of the videos, anything like that, if you feel like you're struggling, feel like you need to talk to anybody, reach out to us, info@dadmandude.net. If we can't help you, we'll try to help you in some way, put you in contact with somebody who can. I mean, it is a very serious thing. And I think the one thing that I know I'm going to make a personal change on is I'm going to think about it every day, say some stuff out loud every day. And then B, I'm also going to be receptive to that, to people that I work with, at least be understanding. There may be limitations out there, guys. There may be things like that are above, that you don't have the ability to make decisions in the workplace about. Doesn't mean you need to go change them. I'm not advocating for anybody to do that, but at least be able to acknowledge what people are asking for or what people are looking for. And
Absolutely.
I think we would, if everybody could do that all at once, we'd be, I think our workforce would be a very different habitation.
And that's where I'm getting at with this, right? Like that's where we want out of this whole thing. It's like we want to know that we're not alone, right? We want to know that other people think this way. Because again, like if I'm sitting here and I am the only one thinking this, tell me, because then I will go check myself into a loony bin, right? But like if I'm not,
dude, I hate to say it, at this point, we've had so much feedback, so much positive feedback from some of the stuff that we've put out there involving exactly this topic, that we're not alone. I'm comfortable saying we're not alone.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And like I know we're not alone, because you're right. Like we've gotten a lot of feedback, good feedback on some of this
Many
stuff.
thanks to those folks that really took the time to, because man, we needed it.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't mean in any other way than for our own mental health, we needed it.
Yes, 100%, man. Like that's where, like I want to learn. I want to know what it is that people value. I mean, like people's values are changing every day, and I want to know what that is. And speaking of validation, so I had one person that reached out to me, and they wrote this nicest note, and it was completely unexpected. Completely unexpected. One, because like I don't really talk to this person that often. I also didn't talk to them when they parted ways with a former employer. So it was nice that this person saw what I was talking about, and then they came up to me and they said, "Hey, I feel the same way." And they said something that I value. And I asked them if I could like say it on here, and this is what they said. It's two things, two lines. They said, "We can always recoup cash. We can't recoup time." That is what I'm after. That was huge to me, because that's exactly
powerful,
what it
man.
is. It is, man. Like time is one of the most important resource for me right now. So when they said that, like that's exactly what it became. Like, and that's where, to me, these are the things that are very important. And I want people to continue to see those things that are important. And then again, let us know what's important to you, so that we can also either help you or we can be your voice through this process, right? That's where I'm not afraid anymore. I used to be afraid about speaking my mind. I'm not afraid because I think that there's somebody that needs to say these things so that somebody can at least hear them. And I know I'm a small voice. I know I'm a small voice.
Oh yeah,
But if I get one person to hear me, that's all that matters.
absolutely, man. And I think that's crazy to think about, that it is such a small voice when you think about it, but if you just help one person through one situation, how many different people do you think you affect?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, it's crazy that maybe even just having a quick conversation with somebody you don't even know, and you say a couple things out loud and you feel better, you can change somebody's life that way.
100%. 100%.
So I'm all for it, man.
Yeah.
100%. Again, still 1 week strong. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're kicking ass and taking names, man. And I mean that not in a terrible way. I mean that in a, you're really, you're doing something that means something to you.
That
And
that my friend is the most important thing.
and like, not only that, but to be able to support somebody in that situation, like me trying to be there for you in all facets, like it really does help me too.
Well, and I
Um,
think and again, right, I also thank you because you're the one that you've been asking the questions that a lot of people have been curious about with my journey, right? And I
well, and
appreciate that. I appreciate that you have like, that you have the courage to just flat out ask them. Like it's okay. Like none of this shit is like, I don't want to hide what happened. I don't want to hide any of that stuff. Like I said, there are details that I'm going to keep to myself because that is what I do. But overall, I want people to know the ins and out. I want people to see what it is that I've experienced so that they can also make the best judgment call for themselves.
absolutely, man. And I think there's a couple things. So like, I've been asking you the questions that I want to know too. And it just so happens that I'm pretty sure everybody's kind of asking those same questions. So,
Absolutely.
um, but it's cool that you know that the people that really care want to know the answers,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and being there to support you through it, man, it's taught me a lot. And even though my decisions to do what the way I decide to do things may be completely different, but at the same time, it's put all those same thoughts right into the forefront of my head, to where I'm thinking about them every day, and then making small decisions based on that, and doing things differently, maybe on myself when it comes to people that work for me, like and in life in general, spending more time with my family, doing things where we're actually doing the things that we say we want to do,
Yes.
not not just say we want to do them and then never do them.
Yes. Absolutely.
You know,
100%. 100%.
so
So, guys, like again, if you can support us, please
smash the subscribe button,
yeah,
please.
subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms. Let us know. Let us know what you think. Again, you can either do it through the comment section here, or you guys can email us at info@dadmandude.net. And we'll be glad to
Hit us up
follow
on
up and
Facebook,
even,
hit us up
yeah,
on Instagram, hit us up on TikTok. Check out some of our content that we put out there. We do try to get a little bit of a different flavor in all areas, so we can kind of get more things out there to people. We're trying to be more consistent with that, but we definitely have already seen a lot of people kind of reach out over there. We have goals that we're trying to get to, just on personal levels right now, as far as what we're going to do and how to make it better for the future, so we can continue to do this stuff for you guys, with you guys. um and I have to say one thing is that I do feel like um a want to build a community at this point.
yes,
And I just wanted to say that out loud today. That way it could be heard. That way when it happens, because I just said it out loud, so it's gonna happen.
that's
I
that's
want you guys that are here right now to be there with us at the same time.
dead on. Yes, absolutely. I definitely want to create the community, and I want you guys that are listening to this that agree with what we're saying to follow us on it, right? And again, if you don't agree with it, let us know too. Like we want to know. We're curious.
If we're
We want to learn.
please, we need the help.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you once again for listening to us. Again, follow us on all social media platforms.
Can't wait to do it again, guys.
Yep. Hit us up on info@dadmandude.net. Until next time, thank you and peace.
Peace out.